Good morning, Virgin Islands. This is your Democratic candidate for delegate to Congress, Emmett Hansen. I hope you've been having a wonderful time this summer. But this morning, there's something of great importance that I wish to speak to you about. Um, a child lost their life in St. Thomas recently. That has been a recurring nightmare of mine, and I wanted to bring it to the forefront and really discuss this with all of you today. From all reports, and I don't know how valid this is, but from what I understand, the child was sitting down minding his own business. Someone came to rob him and ultimately ended up killing him. The reason why I say this is a recurring nightmare is not solely because of this wanton criminality that takes death so lightly, but because if this had been taken seriously and given the import that it deserved, this would not be happening. Um, People ask me questions as I'm campaigning, which I'm fully open to. And I often find myself saying to them, don't ask me what I'll do, ask me what I've done. In this instance, in this instance, um, when I was first elected to the Senate in 2001, my first major bill was the Gun Control Act because this same thing was happening, albeit on a lesser scale of the gun violence. And I worked with uh, Police Commissioner France Buffy Christian. I worked with ATF. I worked with Attorney General at the time, Iva Stradivarius, and we crafted a bill that would provide not only a deterrent to persons getting involved with gun violence, but also prosecute to the fullest extent of the law those who had already chosen that path. Now, in full disclosure, I believe that even Granny should have a 22 to protect herself. But I also believe that it should be done in a manner that is responsible. Governor Turnbull at the time thought it was, in his words, too harsh. It was draconian. And he especially did not like the fact that we went after the persons wholesaling weapons illegally in the Virgin Islands. He vetoed it. And also asset forfeiture for those persons who were selling weapons. And if we found it on your boat, we take your boat and sell it and put the proceeds in a community fund. If it was in a warehouse, the same thing. Oh, he first thought it was, in his words, draconian, harsh. And he lied. He lied to the public to say that a single bullet would cost you your home. He lied deliberately. I sat on this very station with George Bagoon O'Reilly, and who else was it? It was Bagoon, and it was John Bell. God bless both of them in their graves. And I let them read the bill, word for word. And after which time I asked them, is you see anything in there about a single bullet causing anyone to lose their home or their property? At the end of it, John Bell did something that amazed me. He apologized and said, I was wrong. There's nothing in this bill to cause anyone to lose their home or their property. And he was very upset. He wasn't upset with me, he was upset with the governor for lying. And I use the word deliberately because that is what he did. Governor Turnbull was not an unintelligent man. In fact, I think he had to be in the top 15, top 10 as far as the intellect goes, but he did not hesitate to use falsehood to get his way. Shortly after we overrode his veto, a young lady, or I think in the middle of it, it's quite some time ago, it's 25 years ago, so if I don't have the exact hour correct, forgive me. A young lady celebrating her quinceañera with her family at, was killed at Koki Point by a stray bullet. I met Governor Turnbull in, where was it? I think we were in the airport in St. Martin, and he called me over and apologized and said that he saw that young lady's face anytime he heard a gunshot or it was discussed. However, after it was overridden, we overrode the veto. He said he was not going to enforce the law. Bear in mind, this is the governor of the Virgin Islands directing his attorney general and the police to not enforce the law. I had a researcher at the time, Victor Morales, you know him as Chucho, who's on another station. And I had him keeping track of the gun incidents. And the closer we came to the vote, the less there was a lessening of gun violence. However, when it was vetoed and the governor of the Virgin Islands said that he was not going to have it enforced, well, that was Christmas for lawbreakers. And the gun violence exploded. And to this day, it continues to rise without regard. It's so easy now to pull a trigger. I don't understand that. I'm not built that way. If my life is threatened, anything goes, certainly. But to kill someone without provocation, what if we had 4 in the last 2 weeks and today is only Wednesday? I don't get it. I really don't get it. So to those who ask, what am I going to do? Should I be elected to Congress? The question is, I've already done my part. But there are other avenues that can be accessed once I am voted in, of course, with your support. Many persons have made this argument, but I have never heard it being made from a congressional seat that Customs and Border Control and the Coast Guard should have been told to also patrol the Virgin Islands waters, the shorelines. To state the obvious, and perhaps to overstate the obvious, which is something we have said, all of us, for decades, we don't make guns. So they must be brought in, whether it is via airplane or boat. That's it. Those are the only 2 ways. It got to come in a boat in whatever container. It's got to come in from the airport, whichever way. But we seem to have been not just neglected, but forgotten. We had a police commissioner that was actually on loan from ATF. He was put there because we all presumed that the reason why he was brought in was to do exactly what we're talking about. He did nothing in terms of getting our shorelines patrolled. Nothing. So what are we to do now? I think that it is imperative, again, and I've said this before, that the person sitting in a delegate seat must reach across and establish a partnership with whomever the governor shall be to create the dynamic that federal forces be brought in. Now, we just recently had a man camp full of soldiers, big old ship down at the pier in Frederickstead. So one cannot make the argument that, oh, we'll never get them to come here. We had ICE running up and down and all over the place. Again, federal officers. So again, you cannot say that it cannot happen. But we have to be able to show the statistics that bear the weight of evidence that this is what we need. And we need it now. Gun trafficking is running rampant. And the school children know. How can it be that our law enforcement officials don't know? It's some things are simply unacceptable. And this is something that I feel is completely unacceptable. That no one, to my knowledge, and I understand there's such a thing as a covert operation, but if you're not arresting anyone, then what good are you? Every time there's a roadblock and a searching cars just spot on, they find weapons. But coming out of those arrests, I don't see, and I've not seen for many a year, where any information is given regarding that dynamic. You have a gun. Well, you can go away for this amount of time, or we can walk with you. But we need to know where you got the gun. And if you have to lock all of them up to protect the citizenry, to protect the children, do it. I was speaking to a lady that I've known for many, many, many years. In fact, I went to college with her daughter, about the state of affairs where we no longer have moonlight excursions. We don't have this, we don't have that, we don't have the other because of the random gunplay. The probability of being shot as a bystander, right? And it's true. It's true. People are not really going out. If they go to dinner, they go in a restaurant first, start cooking for the evening. Because people just do not want to take the chance. When's the last time you heard of an adult dance? Not the kids. Kids are kids. But I'm talking about an adult dance. Like we used to have out at St. Croix by the Sea, or at Gertrude's, or at any of these other places, right? Pelican Cove, all of those places where we would go and just dance and eat and dance the night away and have a great time. No fight, no gunplay, no anything. And we wonder why town is so dead. It's because we have accepted and acknowledged the fact that this is not in our favor. When we look at the odds, it's not in our favor to go out and enjoy ourselves. Let me ask you another question. When's the last time you were to a house party? It's been a minute, right? It's been a minute for me too. Because people don't feel safe. And I read something on Facebook. Someone was railing against somebody else. That seems to be the point. And all of the anonymous bots, had their opinion. Because someone told a visitor to watch themselves and, the common sense stuff that you tell people who don't know. Don't be in town too late. Don't go up in Christiansted. I mean, these are just, friendly warnings. Oh, they shouldn't be telling people that. They shouldn't be telling them that because then they're going to spread the bad. No, it's just survival, man. That's what it is. But if we don't look And I used to not like this, but I've come to realize that it's true. It's true with people being let go because they know someone. My car was parked in front of my house and some drunken fool ran into the back of it. The officer who came gave this guy like 15 chances to pass a sobriety test and he failed miserably, never arrested. And I could tell from the conversation that they had a link with an organization. The police would tell him, shut up, shut up, shut up. You're talking too loud. Ran into a parked car. And the dumbass officer, and I mean it like I say it in this instance, gonna ask me if I were drinking. Fool, I was home in my house. The car never moved. Stupidness you asking me. What kind of dumb question is that? My car is parked in front of my gate. This guy comes around the corner, crashes into the back of my vehicle. And you asking me about me? And this guy looked like he dancing bachata trying to cross the road. Really? Drunk as hell. And it wasn't a new officer. But you see, not everybody's stupid. So I knew what the officer was telling me was a smokescreen to distract me from watching this drunk fool who just ran into the back of my vehicle. There's a reason why people have a mistrust, and that is perhaps the biggest impediment to people reporting crime. When you look at one of our online publications and you look at the fact that they have pictures of someone upside down in the car, someone dead, someone shot, who you think they get in it from? They ain't the same first responders? Because pick sense out the nonsense. If the accident happened 9 o'clock and 9:10, they got the pictures. Somebody sent it to them. And the only person with that proximity is someone who responded. There are reasons why people don't trust law enforcement. And I say that not to say all the officers are bad, because Lord knows I'd be lying on a majority of good ones. Because I honestly feel the majority of our officers are good people and good ethical officers as well. I honestly believe that. But the bad ones, ah boy, they make it bad for everybody. So what we have to do from, again, the federal standpoint is to get people in here whose job is to track these things down. We have to get help in here. This problem from 2001, when we had the chance to nip it in the bud, has only grown. And it's gotten to the point that when bad things happen so consistently, it becomes normal. It does, it becomes normal. So we have to all get together and look at the fact that we are losing the next adult generation. We have so much talent that have left these shores and thrive because they always had the ability to thrive, but not the opportunity. There's a difference because you could out a fire. You can really out a fire. And when our youngsters, the next generation, is snuffed out like this young man, and nobody's talking, he's at a basketball court. Basketball court wasn't empty. There's some people who know damn full well who it is that killed that child. And to the parents and the teachers and the neighbors of this young man, you have my absolute sincere sympathies, because that is a pain that my mind runs from dwelling on. Because if you get your kid to that age, man, 15, they are steps away from adulthood. And to have had them that long, to have loved them and cared for them and nurtured them for that long and have that big space in your heart ripped away, I cannot imagine. That's a nightmare. And that's an ongoing nightmare. So, to those, if I feel this bad and I did not know the young man, I could only imagine how the parents and family and friends and extended family feel to walk in your door and not see them sitting there and not hearing them talk about what they want to eat and all the inside jokes that parents have with kids. It's unimaginable to me. It's worse than any horror movie that I can remember. And the fact of the matter is, to prevent the murder of yet another young Virgin Islander, I swear to you, upon getting into Congress, that will be one of the things that I will have to insist upon. You can't just, I mean, it's at the point where, as a territory, we have to stop allowing ourselves to be treated like a side chick or side dude. Just how you're so hot about the border between Texas and California and Mexico, be hot about our borders too. And this is when you have to come good and you have to know who to speak to about this. And it's not just the Virgin Islands. Our nearest neighbor is Puerto Rico, right? So if they could come into Puerto Rico with all its shores, they could come here easily, because I don't think that we have the volume for people to be sending in guns from Texas, from Florida. But if they get them to Puerto Rico with all that shoreline, oh, they coming here next. You don't even need a big boat to go Rico. So the fact of the matter is, I want to impress upon everyone that this is one instance where it's not a suggestion, it's mandatory. It is mandatory that we get help from ATF, from the Coast Guard, ICE, whomever. But it has to be here. It has to be, what's the word I'm looking for? We have to ensure that it's not a vacation for anyone. We have to ensure that we know exactly what we're asking for and why. The stats must be compiled. And while I can appreciate, I think it's a Daily News who has a crime report. It's one of our remaining news sources who can tell you that they keep track of it, how many. That's how we know. And here's the other thing. I know that our law enforcement, whether it's corrections, whether it's police, whether it's the guys on the boats in DPNR, yes, DPNR, there are recurring offenders. And as a former law enforcement person, I can tell you, if you don't have someone on the other side talking to you, you cannot do your job. You have to keep the lines of communication open. I'm not telling law enforcement how to do their job. I'm saying to law enforcement that you have to dig deeper and you have to accept the help when it comes. And when the call comes, because we have to set the parameters by which this thing will be done. We have to give up enough information to give them a head start. Just because they're federal and you're local, that doesn't presume that they have more knowledge than you. You are the expert on here, but you have to work in concert. And I'll say the same thing I said in 2001. If you out here killing people, yes, without the shadow of a doubt, I want you in jail. I want you away from my family. I want you away from me. I want you away from someone's grandmother. And I damn sure want you away from the children that you've been murdering and intimidating. If we don't speak up for ourselves to say, hey, you guys have the resources, we need you. And we need you now. We needed you a while ago. And I understand that nobody asked you to come. But wouldn't you agree that this is what we need now? So that we don't have to live with this on our heart that another one is gone, just sitting down, mind their own business and died for a friggin' chain. I cannot resolve that between my head and my heart. I cannot resolve that. And I'm going to demand that we get the help that we need. We know who has the resources. And when it comes, I don't want to hear, oh, the guys did this. Fine, good. As long as they're not targeting law-abiding citizens, let them clean it up. Let them clean it up. It's gone too far now. It's been gone too far. Anyway, I've been running my mouth for about a half an hour. I'd like to get some phone calls from St. Thomas so I need to know how you feel about what's going on and what's happening, because this happened on your island. And we've had it happen here as well. We've had babies hit by random gunfire. And I think that we really need to address this as a community. I remember some time ago, there were some shootings in town in a popular area. What do we do? If anyone remembers that video that made its way around, what's up about people with some high-powered artillery in Mid-Island, across the street from a shopping center. I mean, it was slight titillation for a moment, and I noticed how quickly people stopped talking about it. I don't remember really that being solved. I remember a statement being made that there was gunfire, and we never heard anything else. Is that investigation dead? Because the more things that happen that we do not hear about, the less our confidence becomes. And I think that we can do better. In fact, I know that we can do better. This whole thing about brother's keeper seems to diminish the more that people cannot get information. Because we just can't blame the police and the police alone. We can't. They can't operate without information. And people have information. But the other part of it is that there have been cases where people have stepped forward, and then next thing you turn around, someone, oops, makes a slip and identifies them. All these things have to be changed. Now, I've been calling for help from without, but we need help from within as well. The only reason these guns are here are because someone's buying them. Someone's selling them, and someone's buying them. And these things is more than likely more common knowledge than we realize. But from the office that I'm running for, which is delegate to Congress, there are too many resources that can be brought to bear to have it not been done before. Some of these bread and butter issues, like living to see tomorrow, have to be placed in a place of prominence. When you're talking about your hierarchy of needs, living to see tomorrow is high up there. And we really, really, really need to accept the fact that we need help to guard these shorelines. And we need to be very talkative when it happens. A little information can go a long way. So I've been walking with this on my chest for about a week. So I thought that this would be one of the best times to just clear try and get it off my chest, in other words. Because we're hearing this just too many times. Just too many times. It's out of control. And we have become prisoners in our own home. A prediction I made some time ago, but when you first bring up something and it's not enforced, this is what happens. And we need to reclaim the Virgin Islands, not because of tourism, no, but for us who live here, who go to school here, who go to a basketball court to watch a game here, those of us trying to raise a family. If the child has a medical problem that God gave them, well, the best we can do is the best that we could do. But then when they are ripped out of the family for something like this, and we can prevent it, I'm begging you, if you know anything, please contact the authorities so that at the very least, somebody can get some peace, be able to sleep at night and not wake up screaming in the dark. We all need you to do that. Okay. So, having said that, I'm trying to move on, but this is hard to move on from. We are looking at several things from the primary standpoint. There will be an open mic at UVI St. Croix on the 9th. On the 9th of July, and it will follow, and there will be also one for the senatorial candidates, one for the in 1 second, let me get the right name here. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Let me give you these dates. All righty. 1 second, just 1 second. Oh, and let me, before I get to that, let me say that early voting is coming. Okay, so there will be it will start at 5:45 and end at 7:30. It will be at the medical, the medical complex over at the UVI campus, and it will be on a Wednesday, July 1st. The one on July 1st will be the senatorial candidates in the District of St. Croix. This is not sponsored by the Democratic Party. It's sponsored by Attorney Russell Pate, and I think it's simply great what he's doing. And okay, here we go. I just had it, Okay, hold on. Okay, UV. This is for the St. Croix UVI Medical Stimulation Center, 3 Wednesday days. The first is going to be with the Senate on the 15th Wednesday. It will be with the delegates, and the 29th will be the gubernatorial candidates. So I think that's absolutely great. And again, on St. Croix at the medical center, July 1st, senatorial candidates from the island of St. Croix. On the 15th, the uh, the candidates for the delegate to Congress position, and on the 29th, the gubernatorial candidates. So I think that I want to really um, thank Attorney Russell Pate. I've known him for a short time from the last election 2 years ago. Is when we first became acquainted. And I have to say that this is a hands-on kind of guy. He really is. And I truly appreciate the opportunity that he's given us to discuss our platform face to face. Because I'll tell you something that I find funny, but then again, I have a rather absurd sense of humor. I ran into a buddy of mine, and he was quoting everything from everybody on Facebook. And I had to ask him because you couldn't get a word in edgewise to the guy. He was just going on and on and on this day and Bluebird Poopin said this and so I said, hey, bro, let me ask you a question. What's the zip code for Facebook? And he said, a what? I said, a zip code. I said, because I've never met anybody from Facebook. I've met people from all over the world. I've not met one person from Facebook. He said, I don't get it. I said, you're talking as though it's a real place and these are real people. Because now Facebook has that anonymous thing and you can make up a name or give your name so you can put anything out there. And people believe that anything you see there is correct. Well, I hardly think so. So I was like, you got to do a little more research than a Facebook post, bro. Facebook is not a real place. It's an app, and you can program bots to give out your to respond to things. It's not real. It's entertainment, really. Now I enjoy it on some levels, but because of things like this that are being put together, that you can actually hear from the horse's mouth, I appreciate that. As a human being, as a Crucian, a Virgin Islander, and a Canadian, I appreciate the opportunity, like I do here, to come to you and get things off my chest and communicate things to you, which I think is very important. That you hear it from the person. It's like, you know, my Puerto Rican friends call it chisme, and I just call it gossip. You can't choose leaders from chisme and gossip. Now, if you notice truth from an independent, reliable source, good. That is good. And remember, I said reliable, not somebody pushing melee and gossip. A reliable source, like the person themselves. And even then, you got to take it with a spoon of salt. Okay, not up in the spoon. But if you can go to a debate, a forum, and you could actually hear people speak. And by the way, um, the persons who do the on the couch, um, 340, I believe, those folks, we the people, man, what a great thing that they put together. Where you could sit down and ask you informed, intelligent questions. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. The way how they follow up, man, it's great. If you ever get the opportunity to go, come out your house and just go and sit and listen, it is fantastic. And they do one heck of a job. They really do. So there are private citizens stepping up to give you the opportunity to listen to people like me who who are offering themselves as candidates. I think that is fantastic. So if you can make it to any of these at all, I encourage you to do so. I really do. Um, there is, let me just tell you this, the the delegates, or we candidates will be, I believe, on the 9th, July 9th. I believe that is the evening that we will have the WTJX VI Consortium debate for the delegate to Congress candidates. Again, if you really want to know who's prepared, what plans are, please tune into these things. You need to know, just not it would be nice to know. If you are to make an informed decision, you need to know. You really do. Because I'll share a story with you. Years and years ago, I did a show on WTJX topics. And I used to be a newspaper journalist, both Avis and Daily News. So upon finding myself increasingly popular, people came to me and said, "Hey, Emmett, you should run for the Senate." Well, I'd always been interested in government. And a dear friend of mine looked at me, I mentioned it. They looked at me and I kind of like, gave that look like, And so I go, "What?" I thought they'd have been, on board. And he said to me, looked me dead in the eye and said, "Emmett, you're not ready." Hand to God. First reaction was, well, they just hurt my little feelings, little man feelings. But my little feelings, what do you mean I'm not ready? And they explained to me why I wasn't ready. And one of the things that they said was that popularity is not knowledge. And up to today, that has stuck in my head. Just because you're popular doesn't mean you know how this very complex thing works. And I made my way, said my farewell for the moment, and went and I sat down and I thought about it. And I realized that that was probably the absolute best advice that I could have gotten from a dear friend. Someone who tells you the truth is your real friend. The one who always say, "Yeah, man, that's a good idea." It may not be your friend. May not just want you to pick up the next round. So I went and I got ready. And when I say I got ready, I started attending the hearings, the Senate hearings and sessions. I boned up on my parliamentary procedure, even knowing Robert's Rules of Order wasn't Mason's Rules of Order. Mason's governs legislative bodies. I got involved with the Democratic Party, or further involved, so I could learn. Because just because I had a college degree at the time did not make me an expert. I went to the University of the Virgin Islands and enrolled in the Masters of Public Administration, which is directly tied to how governments work and don't work. And I continued learning. Now, I went that way instead of the more popular, the more lucrative MBA because of my personal interest. And I learned and I got good. Years later, similar conversation with the same friend, and they said, "Well, why aren't you running?" And I said, "But you tell me I wasn't ready." And I said, "That was then. You're ready now." And I was able to walk in and become efficient shortly thereafter. And I'll liken that to this race that I'm in because I made myself ready. After serving in the legislature, I ran for the high offices within our Democratic Party, which sent me to the DNC. Now, I went back and forth when the 4 years I was in the legislature, to the DNC conventions and whatnot. I did so on my own dime. Nobody paid for me. I went because it was my interest at that time to see how this worked. And I went again as state chair, which the Democrats voted me into. I returned as the national committee man who works with the party in Washington, the DNC. The national committee man really has uh, no duties locally. The state chair does. So I made it a point to not only attend, but to be in the meetings where the decisions were made, to spend time with persons like uh, Dr. Everett Ward, who was the vice chair of the DNC, of the Black Caucus, Virgie Rollins, who was the chairperson, to become friends with a great guy out of Puerto Rico who at the time was the longest serving state chair in the US, Attorney Roberto Prats, who incidentally came here to St. Croix to endorse me when I ran for Congress the first time. Alice Sherman, who was the Secretary Emeritus of the DNC, who also came to St. Croix to endorse me at that time. So when it comes to you're not ready and you are ready, there's no one else in this race. I've already told you I have 10 years in the DNC, a decade, a decade. There's no one else in this race who has a day, a single day working with the DNC. You may have worked with someone to perhaps, perhaps assist in voting or supporting a bill, one or two persons, but those persons are not the governing body. There's no comparison. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. Unless you're in, you're out. It's truly that simple. If you're not in, if you have not been in, then you have always been out. So it comes down to selecting the one with the contacts and the experience, or anyone else who's simply trying a thing. Because that's really what it comes down to. I come with receipts about what I've done, what I've accomplished. And it is so for whatever I tell you, I will never say anything to you, Virgin Islands, that I cannot substantiate or that you cannot substantiate. It just simply doesn't happen. It doesn't. So so your choice then is simple. You have a person who has served honorably, who has never been in a position of disgracing himself, his organization, or his family. Someone who can look you in the eye and tell you exactly where I've been and what I've done for your benefit. Not for mine, for your benefit. Someone who has known that you can depend on because I mean what I say and I say what I mean. I've always been that way. My classmates tease me. I'm talking about the ones from high school, whether Central or Charlotte or Mali. If you don't want to know the truth, don't ask them at nothing because they're going to tell you. And I do that not because I want to hurt anyone's feelings, but that is the discourse that I grew up with. That what you do is you tell people something honest because if I ask you a question, I'm asking because I value your opinion. I'm not asking you to make me feel good. That's nothing. If I ask you a question, it's because I honestly want to hear your thoughts. There is value in honesty. There is worth in accountability. That is the Virgin Islands I grew up in. And moving from St. Croix to St. Thomas, I did not find that aspect of it to be any different. That we earned and gained respect by being truthful. and wholly truthful, not half truths, wholly truthful. And I think that, in fact, I know that that has been the case anywhere I've been, whether I've been in college away, whether I've been in military training away, whether I've gone to a convention away. The only way you can be respected is to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. That's what people expect from you. That is the only way that people come to respect you, if you can be truthful about what's going on. That's it. That's it. And that's the person that I've always been. Even if my child asks me something, I mean, he's a grown man now, but especially coming up, ask me, I'll tell you. Now, if you're talking to a child, you coach it in a different way most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, you know? But I think that we have somehow come to entertain stupidness. And I really think that we deserve better. I look at some of the mudslinging going back and forth, and I ask myself, why is that necessary? I'm not hearing anything of worth, but I'm hearing and seeing people enthralled, enslaved by the mudslinging. And you hear what this one said to that one, and that one said to this one. I do not have an appreciation for that, which is why I don't do it, because I will engage a certain way, and that's not my way. I don't do that. I don't see the value in it. And if someone is using that to get my vote, you just lost it. You really, really just lost it. Because serious times call for serious people and serious minds. We are at a nexus. And there are things that I've said that point to that. I keep hearing within the context of the election, Epstein this, Epstein that, but at the same time, I am not seeing the authorities, the powers that be, the persons with the stroke, dealing with this in a serious way. And I'm offended by that. I grew up in the time of Fountain Valley. You had to change the whole name of the whole golf course and everything from Fountain Valley, because that stain is still upon us. And unless we as a people demand all of the facts, this Epstein thing is not going to go away. And by God, we shouldn't have to wait for someone else to do it. Most of us had no idea it was going on, especially on St. Croix. We had no idea. None. But yet, the whole Virgin Islands is being stained by this, and it's going to affect us in ways unknown. It is. And it is right now. And I think that we need to be the ones to lead the charge to clear up what happened. This happened in our home, but it's worldwide. The Queen of England stripped her favorite child of his title and his duties and his privilege. That's her child. What are we doing? What are we doing to equal that energy? At all costs, we have to protect the Virgin Islands. And it has to stop being a joke, because I see people treating it like a joke, and it turns my stomach. Because there were so many children hurt, abused, and died, not being looked after. I mean, What are we doing? We got the money from the estate. Has it gone to help any of those children who are abused? I see it being spent elsewhere, and I have a problem with that. And I'm not being very subtle about it because I think we need to deal with it now. Now, if I were an outsider and I saw the nonchalant way this was being handled, I'd never come here. But on the flip side to that coin, I am of here and I'm here now, which is why I bring it up and I talk about it because I expect better of the persons who are responsible for bringing light to darkness. I'm not vague about it. I'm not shy about it. I'm being upfront. Now I know it's an unpleasant topic. I don't like it. But damn it, we have to do something about it. And it can't be that every time somebody brings it up, they get fired. It can't be that every time somebody brings it up and they have a pending loan for a business, they're denied. These things are happening. But who will prevail at the end of the day? This is the thing that I'm waiting to see. Who coming in will prevail? Who will you support at the end of the day? Because at the end of the day, it's you, the people, got the power of the ballot who determines who gets in and who doesn't. Is it that you're just gonna pretend it didn't happen and shrug your shoulders and walk away? What are you gonna do? At the end of the day, the question is what you're gonna do. Anyway, I want to say thank you to all of you for letting me get that matter with the young man off my chest. It was burning my heart from last week, and again, I really want to say condolences to the family and friends and the residents of uh, St. Thomas, St. John, St. Croix, who's lost a Virgin Islander. My God, we don't know how great this young man could have become. He might have been the one, and now we'll never know. We need federal intervention to keep the guns out. And that will be one of the very first things that I introduce. That because our Coast Guard station should not be in Puerto Rico. You used to have one sitting down right in front of the legislature. I don't even know if it's there anymore. But we need one here. It's 40 miles between St. Thomas and St. Croix. So even if that one is there, it's still too far away to help anything. We need those patrols. Anyway, I'll read off the dates one more time so that you can set your calendar. This is going to be at the UVI Medical Center. July 1st, it will be the debate for the senatorial candidates. All this is Democratic. On July 15th, it would be those of us running for delegate to Congress. And on July 29th, it will be those persons in the race for governor. So I think that's pretty exciting. Um, and then the delegate to Congress debate from TJX in collaboration with the VI source will be July 9th. So you get the chance to see the delegates 2 weeks in a row. On the 9th on television and on the 15th at UVI. This is Emmett Hansen. This has been the Hansen Digest. I want to thank all of you for sharing this time with me today. And everything I said, I endorse, of course, because Jen charging me. She ain't easy, but she good. All right, listen, I'll see you next week. You guys take care. Jen, thanks for everything.
Not a problem.
Okay, my mother tell me, say please and thank you.
Yes,
She a good mommy.
that's right.
Okay. Virgin Islands, adios. See you next week. I lost